Thank you for joining me. I'm trying something a little bit new, trying to stream to a couple of different platforms today. So forgive me if it's a little unpolished. I'm working through that. I'm growing, I'm learning. But today I'm going to go ahead and step into part two of finding and keeping your motivation. And this is something that I think a lot of us deal with around this time of year where it's spring break, and especially like for getting healthier, a lot of people struggle with finding motivation. That's probably kind of the easier part, and then keeping that motivation, which is something that I've kind of struggled with. So this is all based on the Primal Potential podcast by Elizabeth Benton. I love, love, love the podcast. This is from episode 968 if you want to check that out. And last week I talked about how motivation has three different parts. The first part is what I talked about last week, and that was having a spark. And when we talk about motivation, kind of think of it as a flame. And I have a little candle here to remind us what that looks like. But when you spark your motivation, that's kind of the easy part. And there are two parts to that. You have to have an ambition, a want or a desire to change something, and you also have to have expectancy. And that is the part that I kind of struggled with, and that's believing that I am capable of whatever that change is. So that's sparking the flame, that's getting it started. But what happens when that spark has started, but it can't continue without doing something to it? So today I'm going to talk about how to sustain that spark, that flame, that motivation. Like, how do you continue that? So the two parts I'm going to talk about today are attention and effort. You have to have both of those in order to sustain, in order to keep the fire going. You've got to have those two things. So when I'm talking about attention, I'm talking about something that's going to bring whatever it is that you're working on towards the forefront, put it to the front of your brain. And in order to do that, you've got to do something consistently over time that's going to keep your goal top of mind. So, something that I've done for my particular weight loss journey is I have purchased a journal, and it's the one that I'm using. It's called the Changemakers Journal, and it is phenomenal because in it gives space for me to write down every day. That's kind of what it looks like. Every day I get to write down three areas or three small goals that I'm willing to do during that day to get me closer to where I want to be. So at the top, I write down my goal, and then underneath that, I write down three things that will help me get there. For example, I would my main goal is to lose 8 to 10 pounds this week or this month, excuse me. That'd be great in a week. um, so in order to do that, I can look at lots of different things. There's lots of little micro habits that can help me get there, like my hydration. So I'm aiming for 100 ounces of water a day. It also might be for myself, not picking at all at any of my kids' meals or anything else. I'm just sticking to the plan that I'm following. And then it might be getting a little healthy movement in there. So that would be my three micro habits I'm working on to get me toward that bigger goal towards the end of the month. And for me, it's chunking it into smaller pieces. I can win the day that way when it's broken down like that. That affords me the attention that I need. It's three small things. I can focus my energy and my attention on that. And then I can move forward and lay my head on the pillow at night and know that I have succeeded and have done what I've set out to do. Another part of the Changemakers Journal, which you could just use on a piece of paper if you wanted to, is write down your successes at the end of the day. That's really important because when you look back, you can kind of see, oh, I was successful at this. This is where I won the day. And then you can also kind of look at some life investments. So that's just a whole nother set where you can kind of look at different things like marriage or your relationships with your kids or whatever. So it's just a great way to kind of keep things top of mind. And I do it at the end of the day. I set myself up for success the following day. So I fill it out. And again, that is the attention part. That is engaging my brain into helping me get into motion and hopefully help me get to my goal. So attention is an important part of that sustaining the spark of motivation. You've got to think about it. You've got to keep it top of mind. The second part of that is the effort, and the effort I like to think of as the action part. What is the smallest thing today that you're willing to do to get you closer to your goal? So for you, if you're just starting out and you're on a health journey, it might be I'm going to walk for 10 minutes a day. Or today, I'm going to eat one healthy meal for the day. I don't know what those goals are for you, but you could use this for anything. So you've got to think of what is the effort, what is the action step that you're willing to take today to help get you closer to your goal. And if you're anything like me, I'm really great at starting something and not really great at finishing it. So this just kind of helps me sustain that motivation. And so much, I was thinking about this the other day. It's not so much about having motivation, but it's being consistent. And I think that's where we struggle. Everybody's motivated to want to be the best version of themselves. But having that consistency piece and thinking of it that way, I think it's a little bit more manageable. It puts us in the driver's seat, because when you're motivated, you kind of compare, if you're like me, compare it to other people. And when you're consistent, that is something that you take charge of, that you are capable of that change. So I don't necessarily want to be motivated every day, but I want to be consistent every day. And every day that might look a little different. So I just wanted to put that out there. So we've talked about spark, we've talked about sustain, and next week, we'll talk about the last step for keeping and having that motivation or that consistency, and that is to amplify, to push us to that next level. So I hope this speaks to you as it did with me. Again, check out her podcast, Primal Potential. Elizabeth Bennett, or Benton, excuse me. She is phenomenal. She's got a lot of great ideas, and I've learned a lot from her. So I hope you guys have a great Friday. If you are watching this replay, just send me a message down below so I can reach out and say hello. But I hope you guys have a great weekend, and I will talk to you soon. Take care, guys.